joining us for another episode of The Chit Chat. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Adam.
And today we have a special episode inspired by March being Women's History Month. Gaming in general has long fought the impression of being a boys' club, but the industry, especially the tabletop industry, has made really large strides lately in becoming more inclusive. So today we're going to do a top 10 list highlighting some of our games that we feel like do a really great job of promoting positive representation of women in gaming. I know in where we do most of our gaming in Central Oklahoma, we're really lucky to have the Oklahoma Board Game Community, which is an organization that includes, all genders and all walks of life, but that's not the norm everywhere. So we just want to really appreciate games that we think, are doing the right thing in promoting inclusivity.
Sure.
So we, first of all, want to say that this is by no means an all-inclusive list. We chose this top 10 based on a couple criteria. Firstly, the art. So we looked at games with art that we felt like wasn't overtly sexualized and in opportune moments. So
right, at least if there were sexual art in that it was at least appropriate to the game. Right. Was really kind of what we looked at. Right.
So if you have a character who's a seductress, it makes sense to have her be more scantily clad. Whereas if your female character is a warrior, it's not necessary or practical for her to be wearing a chainmail bikini. So we want the art to make sense for the game.
Sure.
And then the other criteria we looked at was how women are used within a theme. So for example, are there women in main character roles? Are there women who are in non-gender stereotyped roles? What is the ratio between male and female characters? So that's what we used to come up with this top 10 list. And
yep, that's really what we've got. So we're going to go ahead and dive in.
Yeah. All right, so diving right in, number 10 on our list is Coup, which was released in 2012, and it's currently $368 on BGG.
Yep, it was designed by Riki Tada, and it was published by Indie Boards and Cards. This is a really small box game. In fact, you can see it up here on the shelf behind us. And what you basically are is you are in a corrupt Italian city-state. And many of you, as the characters, are vying for control of the new monarchy, and you're doing it in various ways. There's an assassin, there's a contessa, there's a duke, there's an ambassador, there's all kinds of different paths to this victory. And ultimately, as you're gaining money, money is king, and it's the only thing that can't be blocked. But this is a great entry-level game that a lot of people are going to be exposed to.
Yeah, which is really why we wanted to add it to this list, since it is an entry-level game. It's a really great way for women who are coming into the board gaming hobby. You sit down at the table and you see this game. It's really inclusive. So 2 out of the 5 characters are women. The Contessa, which is arguably the strongest character in the game, and then also the assassin is a woman. And the art and the theme and the powers are just really on point as far as being a positive representation for women.
Yep, absolutely. Cover art is, the strong woman, the Contessa out there. And again, I just feel like it does a great job at easing people into board gaming and seeing that, there aren't necessarily stereotypes here. It's a positive and welcoming community. And that's what I see it as, and that's what I want it to be.
Absolutely. All right, next on our list is Steamworks. It was released in 2015, and it is $17.27 on BGG.
Yes, it was designed by Alex Churchill, and it was published by Tasty Minstrel Games. So it's going to have that kind of fun, tasty minstrel art to it. They kind of have a style that they go with, or the artists that they hire. But this game is set in the Victorian era, and think steampunk with it. So basically, it's going to be a tile placement game of a medium or so weight, in which you're placing power sources and machines onto the board to build this kind of a cool clockwork engine overall, powering up steam with electricity, with gears, all kinds of fun stuff. And the characters are balanced half and half between a male and a female cast. And they have these kind of fun asymmetrical powers that they get to work with, which really seem to be pretty well balanced. And so I liked it. I thought it was a solid addition.
Yeah, now the art, is obviously thematic for steampunk, so the women are wearing big foofy dresses.
Sure.
But again, it makes sense, and I feel like it's really good as far as the balance between women and male characters, and just the fact that all the women in the game, none of them are especially strong or weak. They're equally good to all the other characters.
Right, absolutely. I mean, it's our number 9, so we've got better to come, but I thought it was a great representation.
Yeah.
All right, so coming in at our number 8 is going to be Raiders of the North Sea. This was released in 2015 initially, mostly to market on 2016, and it's ranked about 160th on Board Game Geek. So this game was designed by Shem Phillips and published by Garfield Games.
So this is a basic worker placement game. Your theme is, Viking raiders of the North Sea, obviously, as is in the name.
South Seas sometimes,
if you're feeling crazy. Mostly we added this game to our list because of the art. So the art shows, strong female Vikings who are scary and large, and you don't want to mess with these women.
I definitely wouldn't. I mean, all of them can take me.
Right. And,
not saying a lot, but still.
Yeah, they're all dressed appropriately for war, and even the characters who aren't warriors per se, like the traders and whatnot, don't have unnecessary sexuality thrown in there. And so we like this game as far as having a lot of the card characters who are women in non-traditional roles, who are strong, powerful, and also it's just a great game.
Absolutely. I think it's a good game. It's still pretty intro as far as the overall. It takes about an hour to play. It's not terribly hard to describe and teach. And so I think that really lends it to this list. I also do just really enjoy this artist. This artist actually has several games that all represent women in a very similar manner. His art style is just always in that niche. Now, I'm going to try to say his name. It's Mihail Dmitrovsky, and I apologize. My voice is going out, and I can't pronounce it. Hopefully that did okay.
So next on our list at number 7 is Scythe, which was released in 2016, and it's currently number 8 on Board Game Geek.
Yes. So I love this game. It was designed by Jamie Stegmaier and published by Stonemaier Games. And it is one of my top 10 games of all time. So if there's a list that I can put it on that's a top 10, I'm going to want to put it on it. Now, we really fought between this game and our next game about which one would represent women better. But we'll keep you in suspense for now. So this game is a little bit of area control, it's a little bit of resource management, and it's set in this really interesting kind of dystopian or alternate history in which a lot of these world leaders have, created these war mechs and everything's just gone downhill. There used to be a factory that supplied everybody and it no longer is in production. And so you go through, you're managing your resources and controlling territories as you're vying for control of the overall game. And I think it's one of the more fascinating games that I've played. It's really dynamic. There are, 10 different goals, but once you've completed 6 of them, the game ends. And so there's a little bit of a race there. I could say all kinds of great things about the game, but it is not the purpose of this list. Now, why is it good for women in gaming? So world leaders in this game are represented by women in many cases. So out of the 7 currently playable factions, 3 of them are female. So that's going to go to Crimea, that's going to go to Tagawa, and that's going to go to Rusviet. And these are some powerful women. One of them has a tiger as her familiar. One of them has a hawk, and she's a sniper. Tagawa has, a trained monkey in that, and she's, a martial arts master. I thought they were really, really well represented. And I thought for a game that their backstory doesn't matter as much, they really laid into that. So
yeah, they do all have intricate backstories if you want to get into it. You don't have to really to play the game. But, they didn't have to make that choice to make this really heavy, intricate game have such a great representation of women in it. And so we just want to appreciate them and recognize them for making that choice and for having this positive representation. Yeah, these, like you said, they're really hardcore, awesome women characters in this game. So gotta love it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, coming in at number 6 for us is going to be Mice and Mystics. So Mice and Mystics came out in 2012 and it's ranked around 202 on Board Game Geek.
It was designed by Jerry Hawthorne and put out by Plaid Hat Games. And Mice and Mystics is a story-based kind of role-playing game, which is pretty fantastical. So it's set in this kingdom where the Prince Colin is shrunk and turned into a mouse by the evil queen.
It's very Rebel-esque.
Yes. And so then, you are a tiny mouse and you are fighting against things that mice fight against, like giant cats and crows and spiders and climbing up onto tables. And so it's just a really great game for children, great game for adults. I
think that's one of its strengths is that it is kid friendly. Now it uses dice for some of the combat, but it really focuses in on the story. It really focuses in on the narrative that you're moving through, and a lot of those decisions can be made by children and can be rolled by children, can be enjoyed. Now that does not mean it can't be enjoyed by adults. Like you said, it's still a good game for adults, but I think there was a lot of care taken in on this game, and so I really, really applaud them for that. Plaid Hat Games does an excellent job at narrative games. They do an excellent job at inclusivity. Right.
So 2 of your main characters in this game, Tilda and Lily, are female mice. And they're really strong characters that you want to play. Lily is a archer. Tilda does magic.
She's the healer. Yeah,
she's a cleric. Yeah. So they did a really great job of making main characters, especially in a game that children are going to play, include strong female characters.
Right. Absolutely. Now you can make the case that they're not in there sword fighting, etc. But Tilda's a strong character and she can melee. She's also just a good overall fighter, and she's probably one of the more required characters as you do need healing in the game. Lily is somebody I see a lot of people gravitate towards. I liked Lily as a play style. The ranged fighting and everything was really good. And so I really enjoyed that. And they did not take a back seat in the story. They were very active in the story. In fact, Lily takes a very, very active part in the story, and there's some spoilers there so that I won't get. But there's a lot to it, and I thought that was really well done.
Right. And so that's kind of why this game ended up ranking a little bit higher in our list, because it has, those strong female main characters, but also since it is marketed somewhat also to children, we liked how a game that children are going to be playing, right from the beginning, has a good representation for women.
Right.
So we want to applaud that. Is Ashes: Rise of the Phoenixborn. It was released in 2015, and it is $3.74 on Board Game Geek.
Yep, it was designed by Isaac Vega, and coincidentally, it was also published by Plaid Hat Games.
Seeing a trend here.
We are, in fact, I excluded a game from this list that also deserved it, and we'll talk about that later. But I think what's really great about this game is it was clear that not only were women included in this game, that they were really, really thought of as they were designing it. And so when you think of what this game is, and you are kind of a Nordic or a Norse god or demigod type player, you're a Phoenixborn, and the old rule has kind of been overturned, and you're fighting for the supreme power there. When you think of that universe, there's going to be lots of battles and things of that nature. You see a lot of women in this game. In fact, it's predominantly women. I think 5 of the 7 initial starting characters were women, and they're really strong and really unique. So there's a witch doctor. There is an enchantress that uses blood magic. So it's not enchantress as in like sexy enchantress. It's scary, make you her own zombie enchantress. But not even that. It's not just magic. It's not women wielding magic. There are women in it with giant warhammers twice their size, with spiked armor, with, you know, all of these battle accoutrements. And they are both physically and strategically and magically strong in this game. And I thought that was really, really well done. Also, the art is gorgeous in this game. That's probably its biggest strength. I don't really see it as an LCG, which would basically be a game that you construct decks, but I think it is amazing as its pre-constructed version, so it comes in set decks with set characters already. And I think that's kind of the way you leave it. But I think the artwork is its heavy strength. There's kind of got the white backgrounds and just beautiful, beautiful art consistent throughout the game. And all of it, I think, is both empowering and imposing. Some of the women are on the cards. So I just love it.
Nobody's unnecessarily overly sexualized. All the women characters are strong, powerful.
Yeah.
A great addition to the list.
I mean, most of them are not sexualized at all, and they're definitely powerful. I think my favorite character is actually the Jenna, the shaman, the voodoo. But I like it a lot.
Yeah. And coming in at number 4 on our list is Monarch. It was released in 2015. It's around 3,095 on Board Game Geek. Its designer was Mary Flanagan, and the art was done by Kate Adams and Sarah Ettinger. So you'll notice this is an all-female team making this game.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons we wanted to include that here. As much as the board game industry has moved somewhat towards having more females and more female representation in gaming, there are still very few all-female design teams, and there are still very few female designers that are not at least partnered with a spouse or a coworker when they co-design a game. And so this was completely designed and done by a female team. So I thought that was really interesting.
And the art is beautiful in this game. So in this game, you're a princess, basically. Your mother is dying, and you are fighting with your other sisters to try to gain control of the monarchy. So it has a little bit of card drafting, has modular game board, set collection. All the characters have different powers. They're all women. It's a pretty light to mid-weight game. Mostly it made our list because of, the characters and the design team and the theme as far as a bunch of women.
Yeah, I mean, part of the actual theme in the game is that your mother's stepping down from the throne, and she wants to test you, and she wants to know if you're brave, if you're intelligent, if you're courageous,
if you're compassionate.
Exactly. So it's not just an all-out like, oh, we're gonna fight like some of the other games on this list are, and we'll see who's the strongest. It's who's the best, and it's kind of who's the best person, who's the best to lead.
Right. And there are multiple different paths to victory, and you're just trying to create a majestic court in whatever way that you do, and just do it the best.
Yep.
And so earn it by being compassionate and intelligent and brave. And so we like that as well as a good theme for female empowerment.
So that makes our list.
And next on our list at number 3 is
Dun, dun, dun.
Legend of the Five Rings, the LCG and universe. This living card game came out in 2017, and it is number 769 on Board Game Geek. It was put out by Fantasy Flight Games.
Yeah, it was designed by Nate French, Brad Andreas, and Eric Dahlman. And all of these guys have a history of designing LCGs and card games in the past. And so it's in their wheelhouse. But what I think is really interesting here, and we're going to mostly talk about the card game, but this will apply in general to the universe. It has its own unique IP or universe to it. It's set with kind of a samurai, mystics, honor, whole feel to it. And so the game can be won or lost by being transcendently honorable or by being dishonored out of the game. And so it's not just military might. It's got an honor and a dishonor mechanic. it's got a lot of, loyalty to your house and being true to yourself in the game. So it focuses really, really heavily on that theme. And there's an RPG to this game as well. So although the LCG is completely separate, in the universe there's an RPG as well. So if you're an RPG player, there is that universe available to you. So now in this LCG specifically, why did we think, and I think, and everybody, that it represents women well? So this one I actually have a whole lot to say about, but I think part of the reason I wanted to do this is some of the clan leaders are female, and they're represented in really, really cool ways. So many of them are political leaders of their houses, basically the monarchs of the house. But that's not it. They also have clan champions. So each of the houses have like a strongest fighter, or like their best, their brightest, their most amazing. And so the Crane clan has a female clan champion. The Phoenix clan has a female clan champion. And these are cool, mystical, but also physical fighters. And then not only is it just in the leadership, but in their general overall theme. So the Unicorn clan, only women can be cavalry. Everybody else is a foot soldier. So the women are cavalry archers or cavalry fighters, but everybody else is a foot soldier. And so they really, really push women to the forefront in their battle and in their tactics and in their skill. And I think that's really interesting. The Lion's Pride Brawler card, it's a strong female card, which incidentally can win political arguments by punching someone. But I still think it's really interesting, and it kind of has those sects of female warriors that are powerful. The Doji Challenger is a duelist, and it's a female martial artist that is great with a katana, and I think that's really, really, really interesting. So
this game really just checked all of our boxes as far as positive representation of women goes. The artwork, is amazing. You have these women in strong poses and strong, wearing their traditional Japanese garb with their swords, and they just look so hardcore. And then also just the fact that a lot of your really strong characters that you want to be using, like you said, the champions, the cards that you need in your deck they're women characters throughout every clan, throughout, the Unicorn gets, a lot of publicity as far as it being women heavy, but really every clan has strong female characters.
No, absolutely.
So this one had to make our list as far as this positive female representation goes.
Yep. Now this one also has some things that you could consider negatives. I think it just fits the theme, but the Scorpion clan is kind of this shady spy actor and actress clan, which basically they will do absolutely anything for the good of their people and their clan. And there are some seductresses in this clan, there are some spies in this clan, and those are fairly sexualized artwork pieces. But I think it fits the purpose for what they're doing and the purpose for how they fit into their roles there. And in no way does it make them weak. It just, that's the way they've chosen to further their house. And I see nothing wrong with that. And I just want to be clear that I don't necessarily think sexual images in games are a bad thing.
Right. When it makes sense for the game, and it's appropriate if you have like you said, a seductress character.
Right.
She could be in a seductive pose, it makes sense. It's just inappropriate sexuality where it doesn't make sense and it doesn't fit that, So this game still hits our list as far as being a positive representation, because there's
absolutely there's a lot to like here.
And number 2 on our list is Android Netrunner. It was initially released in 2012 and re-released in 2017, and it's 38 on Board Game Geek. It was also put out by Fantasy Flight Games.
Yep. This was designed by Richard Garfield and Lucas Litzinger. And they're also, kind of the card game, LCG type Hall of Fame. They do a lot of these type games, and they're good at keeping a good basis in the game. And I thought it was great. Now, I'll let you describe the game a little bit, and then...
Yeah, so basically, Android Netrunner, the living card game, you are it's sort of a cyberpunk kind of a theme. It's a deck builder, it's asymmetrical, so one side is going to be the runner, where you are kind of plugging into the network, to the net, and you're running on these corporations. So the corporations, corporations are these kind of big monopolies that are super powerful, and so the runners are trying to steal points from the corporation. Agendas, yes, victory points. And the corporations...
Gotta stay with theme here.
And the corporations are trying to keep them away from the runners.
Yep. So thematically, all of this here is basically going to be the matrix if you're a runner. And when we say deck builder, this is actually a living card game. You are going to construct decks. You're going to play both sides in a real or a tournament style match. But that doesn't have to be how you play it. You could play just the runner or just the corporation in a casual match. And there's a lot involved in this game.
You've played how many hundred games of this?
How many thousand games is really, really what you should say here.
Yeah, so great game, basically.
It's a great game. We're gonna try to keep me off of talking too much about Netrunner. Like I said earlier, there's a lot to love here. But what I think is pretty interesting about this game is that the hackers that they utilize, there are a lot of female hackers in it, and they're from a lot of different walks of life.
Right.
So
you
not
don't
only
traditionally think of a female being a computer hacker.
Right. And not only is it just female computer hackers, Chaos Theory is a young prodigy. So, she is a child prodigy. She's a genius. Valencia Estevez, she is a military woman who has basically coming after the corporations due to some issues in her own past. Reina is also kind of an anti-government figure, but she's also a very strong woman. And then you have like your Andromedas, who are the rich elite, and they're kind of doing this for entertainment, but also, because they believe in money and things of that nature. Yes. So there's a lot of different walks of life and a lot of different purposes for why they hack, but there are a lot of female characters that are the leads, that are the main portion of your deck.
And then also other cards in the deck. Yeah. Not just the character cards, but in general, the art in this game. Right.
A lot of your connections, a lot of the NAPD, which is the New Angeles Police Department, are made up of female characters. And a lot of the art in general is just fairly pro-women. Now, there are a few cards in there, but I think this is actually the best thing. There are robots that may or may not be used for inappropriate purposes, but there are male versions and female versions, so it's equal opportunity here. And that is the one knock I would say for the game, but I think that's kind of entertaining. So
yeah, in general, great game, great representation. All right, and coming in at number one, we had a lot of discussion about this, and the reason why this game made it to number one is because it's such a dynasty, and it's of course the Pandemic series. The original Pandemic game came out in 2008, and it is designed by Matt Leacock, put out by Z-Man Games, and it is number 71 on Board Game Geek. Pandemic, the Legacy game, Season 1, is number 2 on Board Game Geek. So these games, very wide popularity, really wide range of people who play this. And
it's still popular and played a lot today. There's a competitive series even going on, the Contagion series, where they're basically going out into different communities and they're having small tournaments, which is great.
Yep. So, sorry. Gameplay?
Gameplay on this one is cooperative, so this is one of the fully cooperative games. In it, basically you are working to combat multiple diseases, so usually 4 diseases, and these diseases can act in different ways, but usually they affect specific portions of the world. You fight to make sure that they don't get overly contagious within a certain area. If they get overly contagious in a certain area, they outbreak and spread to outlying areas. So you can win by running out of, or you can lose by running out of cards. You can lose by having too many outbreaks, and you can lose by having no more disease cubes, basically having too much disease in the world, but you win by curing all of the diseases. And I think it's a really interesting mechanism. It is usually played open-handed, so everybody can kind of talk and strategize, but if there's too much of an alpha gamer problem, you can play that face down, and so it still works with most groups. And I think cooperative really is good for some of the newer players to kind of get a little bit of an opinion, especially if those people are not too forceful about that.
Mm-hmm. So when you're playing the game, every person has a role that they have, which is represented by a character card. So one of the reasons why we like this game is because for this, women in representation series, is because a lot of the strong characters in this game are female, and also in non-gender stereotyped roles. So again, arguably one of the strongest characters in the game is the quarantine specialist, which...
Medic all the way.
Quarantine specialist really helps, facilitate the game, and that's a female character.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And so, and also the art is appropriate for whatever character is playing. So if they're a scientist, they're wearing a lab coat. If they are, in a mechanical role, they're wearing, clothes appropriate for their jobs.
Yeah, and almost all of the Pandemic series features a woman prominently on the cover. Mm-hmm. So Pandemic Iberia has a nurse up the front of it. Pandemic, the initial, has a scientist at the very front. And then the expansions like In the Lab, etc., mm-hmm. typically feature in the very forefront one of the women scientists or women researchers or whatever it happens to be.
Legacy Season 2, which we have behind us, has a large profile of a woman on the cover.
She's kind of masked up. I don't really know what she does, but that'd be a spoiler anyway.
So yeah, we just really like this game as far as how it portrays females. And again, it's more of an entry-level game. So it's great having strong female characters in these entry-level games. So women come to the table, they're starting to play, hobby board games. Mm-hmm. They can see, women that they can relate to.
Yeah, and at this point, there's a lot of Pandemic out there, so it's going to hit most people's themes. Rising tide, you're not even really facing disease, you're facing flooding. Pandemic Cthulhu, if you really like that kind of mythos or a little bit of that horror theme. Iberia kind of has a history to it. It's kind of a special edition, so the artwork is extra beautiful. It's kind of got a classic feel, so... There's a little bit for everybody there, and usually you can find a version of Pandemic that you're going to gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is our top 10 list. Make sure you comment below on what your opinions are. What are some games that you feel like should have made the list? Do you agree with our order? Do you not? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. And thank you so much for watching. This has been